All right. Yeah, so pretty much, what's the best way for me to describe it? I think I started, so I've drank quite a few different mineral waters, and the Topo, I just love the flavor of it more than anything.
Gotcha.
I think that's probably the best way to describe it. But
it beats the Pellegrino.
Yep. Now, I mean, hey, I will admit, I do sometimes drink. I'm really not a Pellegrino fan. I do like the
Perrier.
Yeah, Perrier is okay, but my second choice is actually the Kirkland Italian mineral water.
Right.
Is pretty much my second. But I mean, this is the deal, man. I mean, every once in a while, everyone's stocked up pretty good around here, but I try to keep 2-3 cases in backlog at all times. But every once in a while there's a shortage. It's kind of like KW1 keys. You never want to be without, right?
That's right.
Never want to be without.
That's
but
correct.
Hey everybody, how is it going? Welcome back to another Lock Boss live giveaway. And as you can see, I have a friend here, Anthony over at JMA. Anthony, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Have you been on live on YouTube very, very many times?
No, man, you got yourself a version. That's my first time, my brother.
Well, there you go.
The experience.
Yes. I think the interesting part with how we're doing this here is that for you, it feels like we're on a Zoom call.
Correct.
But we're actually, live on YouTube, so it's kind of funny. But thanks for joining, and thanks for being around, guys. And for everyone watching, thank you for tuning in. And if you haven't seen any of our advertisements or anything, Anthony, our friend over at JMA, is giving away a Nomad key machine tonight to one of the 5 lucky winners. So super excited about that. Now, have you been practicing your name drawing today at all?
I got everything on a hat. It's a brand new hat. All the 5 names are here, so I'm ready for whenever you're ready to me. I'll just mix it all up and get it all going and pull the winner.
Yes, good stuff. Now, everybody, let me get in here and say hi. What do we got? What do I see here? Someone says they didn't get their fruit snacks. Hogmaster 13 got your order and no fruit stacks. That's definitely not good. I'm gonna get to the bottom of it after this. I have to figure out. It seems like every once in a while, some of you people aren't getting your fruit snacks. That's not cool. That is not cool. But hey, I want to give a shout out to Jokin. I was talking to him here a few hours ago. He is a locksmith up in Canada, and we had a great conversation about different ways that he could potentially get business, and he was looking for some different recommendations on stuff. Joachim, thank you for chatting with me for a while, and you said you're going to be tuning in. Very cool. That's good stuff today. And let's see here. Yeah, guys, everyone, so many of you tuning in live right now. Very cool. Anthony, I know you can't see it, but the comment section is just blowing up. Everyone's saying hi from all over the country, North Carolina, Tennessee, you name it. So
hi guys, excited to be part of it.
Absolutely. So now is what we're going to be doing. I'm going to ask Anthony some questions. I'm going to see if I can get to the bottom of it, a few things. And at the same time, towards the end, we're going to do our Lock Boss giveaway. We'll be giving away awesome gear and prizes to 5 lucky winners. And one of those, Anthony's hooking up with a Nomad key machine. So it'll be a lot of fun. But Anthony, what's that?
Isn't that the machine behind you right there on the right-hand side?
That is.
All right.
That is it right there. Yep. The JMA Nomad. It's a good machine. Now, Anthony, towards as we kind of popped on live here, we were kind of finishing a conversation about Topo Chico. I see that you have one over there.
I sure do.
And have you drank Topo Chico often before this?
I do, yes. I've been a big fan of Topo Chico probably for a good 7 years now.
Good, man. I like it. Good stuff. Well, hey, cheers to you, and cheers to all of you out there who are drinking some Topo Chico with us as we have some fun. So good stuff.
Let's do it.
But all right, Anthony. So let's hop in. I'm going to ask you some questions. Everyone who is listening right now, if you have any questions for Anthony or JMA as a whole, go ahead and put them in the comment section. I do have them pulled up right here on my computer, and I'll do my best to carry on a conversation, read the comments, and ask Anthony. So we'll see how we do here. So go ahead and ask him some questions, and we'll have some fun. Now, I do have to say, Anthony, I mean, the podcast we did was fun. I actually got to learn a few things, and we also kind of filled everybody in on the history between us. For me, pretty much always blowing you off, when you'd call with JMA.
I had to get very talented at cold calling you, and getting. This is the mail guy. Just pass PJ, please.
Yep. Exactly. So that's funny.
That was good.
So let's start off, with a basic question here, and I don't actually know the answer to this, so I'm really excited. What does JMA stand for?
Okay, JMA stands for the initial of the founder of the company. So, Jose Mari Altuna. That's what it stands for. That's the founder of JMA. It's his initials.
Okay, that's
simple
makes
enough.
Sense. Now, I've also seen that the last name is Altuna. You said Altuna. Now, I've seen that on like key boxes and stuff. I think where it says like Altuna Group or something.
Correct. So I guess it has to do with the way they're managing the group. So Altuna Group. Within Altuna Group, there's a few different entities that are working worldwide. One of them is JMA USA. The other one is Llaves Altuna de Mexico. And the other one is JMA France, JMA Spain, JMA what have you. And they're all within one group, which is the Altuna. Note to another one that's noticeable also that we don't talk about. It's Altuna MDL, which stands for Máquinas Duplicadoras, which is the actual company within the company that's actually making those machines. One of them is the one behind you, the Nomad.
Oh, really?
So it's like a department within the group that's responsible for making key machines. Okay.
Interesting. So, hey, we have a question here coming in for you from Locks NY. And he asks, when is JMA going to clone the 128-bit stuff?
Okay, that's a hard one. We just literally launched the 80-bit Ford cloning probably a couple of months ago. Mm-hmm. We haven't gotten yet to the 128-bit. I'm sure it's going to be coming like anything else that we had in the past, but I cannot give you a date for sure. I honestly don't know. I know that they're always working on things like that.
Okay. So it's something obviously in your guys' best interest to do, but it just, you're just not there yet.
We're always behind the OEMs. You know that, BJ. It changes so much where Ford comes up with a new key, which is the 128-bit key. It takes us a few years to catch back to them.
Uh-huh. Makes total sense. And now talk to us a little bit about the 80-bit, since we're on the topic.
Okay, the 80-bit JMA just launched the TPX7, which going to be responsible for cloning a big portion of the Ford 80-bit chips that are out there. It also includes some of the Kias and Hyundais. I don't have the list with me right now, but it is available. I think there's going to be a brochure online in the GMA website, GMA USA website, that will actually detail all the listings for the cars that will be cloned with the TPX7. But it's mainly Ford 80-bit. It's the big kahuna here in the United States, at least.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, as far as let's talk about just cloning as a whole here for a minute.
Sure.
I mean, essentially is what you guys are doing, and really all the aftermarkets are doing, is you're literally, you have a team of engineers who reverse engineer what goes on and makes a chip to do that? Or, I mean, can you give us like a brief outline how that works?
Well, what they do is they just find ways how to write that, number one, you got to read the information that you have in there, in the key. And as the years went by, it used to be, fixed codes transponder, which means basically think of it as a 16-byte number. Okay, your drawer where you're sitting, every drawer that you have, let's say you have 4 drawers, every one you pull in, there's 4 sets of number that you can read. There are 1, 2, 3, 4. On the other drawer, you're going to have 3, 4, 5, so on and so forth. You read those numbers and you can write them in a version chip. In theory, that's what cloning means. However, in reality, throughout the years, and as the technology got more difficult, some of those, for example, those drawers, it went from 16 bytes to 32 to 80-bit chip to 128 now. So think of it in every drawer that you open, sometimes those numbers are encrypted. So maybe in one drawer, you'll find 1X23. So we don't know what that X is, and so on. So the encryption gotten bigger throughout the time. So what happened is now we need to either use a 2-step process to clone, for example, the Philips crypto or the Negamos crypto for the Volkswagen or the VAG group. And we also use the internet, for example, to clone some of the 80 bits chips. Because of the size of the file, there's just no way a little cloner with the board that's in it can manage the calculation needed to give you the results of the clone. But as you see, it evolved from being standalone, read and copy, to crypted, to online. But basically, we read the information that's in the key, for example, and we find a way on how to write it in our microchips and save it under that microchip. That's pretty much, in a nutshell, how it works.
Interesting. And another question here is the TPX7 an update for the Evo?
For the Evo, you need to be up to date. Yes, you need to have the TPX8 pack before you be able to update to the TPX7. So in other words, if you have the TRS 5000 Evo and you updated it for the TPX8 pack, then you should do your TPX7.
Okay.
And for the TPX8 pack, you can talk about it a little bit later, but I'm not sure. It could be on your website. We're offering right now the cloner with the TPX8 for about $650 or something like that, and that includes everything. I don't think there's any trade-in because the price point is pretty much low. I don't think there's any trade-ins that we're taking, to be honest. But that's pretty much what it is. If you have an EVO, the best way to know, though, for sure, before you buy anything, is probably call David at tech support at the office. He's there from 9:30 to 6:30 Central. And he's going to ask you, when you turn the machine, you're going to see the hardware version. He's going to ask you for those numbers. Just make sure you have the machine with you handy, and he'll tell you whether your machine is up to date or not.
Okay. Now, another question coming in is essentially, so all the key blank manufacturers seem to all have their own system for cloning.
Right.
And can your machine clone other chips, or is it proprietary for each? Or, how does that work?
Okay, so because we are a key blank manufacturer, preferably every key blank manufacturer likes to sell their own keys and their own chip. So yes, we do have, proprietary technology that's only JMA. So for example, if you use the TRS 5000 Evo, then you're stuck with the TPX technology for cloning. You cannot buy another chip from the competitors to clone in our cloner. It's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. So the answer is, like I said, most manufacturers, they pretty much gonna want to push their own chips and their own key blanks.
Okay, makes sense. Totally makes sense. Now,
even though in the beginning we were the only ones having those shells, remember we came up with those shells first, but now just about every other manufacturer have their shells. So
yes. Now, I guess the one exception it would be to this would be like the TP5 chips. Seeing those are like universal kind of work and everything.
I didn't want to say that, but yes, you're right.
Yeah. Okay.
The TP05, which is the fixed code chips, those are called Philips fixed chips. You can go ahead and clone on them. I think on every cloner they work. It's also called the TP05 Nova. I'm not sure if they make it still or not, but that you can also do it. Those are fixed codes. Yes, you can clone, I think, on every cloner, I believe. I've never personally tried it, but I heard that yes.
Okay. Sure. Now, let's, Anthony, if we could talk for a few minutes about JMA's like number system, right?
That's my favorite topic. Everyone beat me up on
it. Well, hey,
remember the days when we started and I sent you our price list with our catalog and you kept on telling me these numbers are too long, I can't remember them. And
yeah, I kind of felt like I needed an extra degree or something to understand what you guys had going on.
Well, believe it or not, there is a logic behind it, and I will go through it. And that logic has to do with the original manufacturing of that key. So the way JMA work, the first part is we're looking at is who made that key. Is it Kwikset? Is it Schlage? Is it Toyota? Is it Ford? Is it Chrysler? So, for example, let's say we're coming up with a Chrysler key. All right. So it's gonna be CHR. Those are the initials for Chrysler. FO will be Ford, HOND will be Honda, TOYO will be Toyota, HY will be Hyundai, SUZU will be Suzuki, so on and so forth.
Okay.
KWI will be Kwikset, SLG will be Schlage, YA will be Yale, so on and so forth. So the first letters, whether it starts at the minimum of 2 and up to 4, are your original manufacturer, the one that made that key. So that's the first segment of the reference. Then there is a dash after that. Then it goes to a number. It can be a 1 or it could be a 15. So I talked about Chrysler, for example, earlier, CHR -15. That 15, all it means is that is the 15th keyway that JMA ever made for Chrysler.
Okay.
So on the tooling department, they need to know. Let's say I'm working the line in the factory. When I get my work order to work on what key I'm going to make, I need to go to our tooling library and pull the right tooling for the key. So it's telling me CHR-15. I need to go. It's a Chrysler head tooling with the 15th keyway for the milling. So you can get those grooves on the key.
Okay.
That's 15. Then after that, there's a little bitty dot, and then it goes P or no P. Basically, if it has a P, it means it's a plastic head. So CHR-15.P, it's a plastic head. If it's not a plastic head, then you order it without a P. You just dot, and then there's going to come a set of numbers after that, which are also used strictly for manufacturing. And I took them out actually from our reference book, but I can tell you about it a little bit. Because I remember you asked me for them a few years back about what does that 2.1 stand for? Well, 2 means it's a brass key, Dot one means it's nickel plated. So the worker it's on the line knows it's gonna be a brass nickel plated key. 2 for brass, 1 for nickel plated. 2.0, it will be, for example, a KWI-1.2.0. You're ordering the Kwikset brass, 2 and then 0. If you want nickel plated, 2.1. If you want the aluminum Kwikset, the one that has the colors that you like, PJ, those are 4.0. So that strictly has to do with manufacturing, the manufacturing process as to what raw material are we going to put in the machine before we make this key. So in a nutshell, now you see the logic behind the JMA numbering system as a whole versus what we're used to in this market, because I was used to also to H75. What does H75 mean? Well, I was told H was for Henry Ford, and 75 I'm not sure what's for. I just know it's that Ford key.
Yeah, that's actually a curious point, right? Like we all know what a H75 is, but what's the logic behind it? That it's so true.
So yeah, for us, for example, which is a good example, the H75 stands for FO-15D as in David, which means it's a reversed keyway. It's a right-hand keyway, .P or whatever you want. So H75.
Yeah. As the Locksmith Life, Mr. Chad in the comment says, he says it's kind of like your guys' numbering system is like real kind of similar to hardware. It's just very kind of methodical as far as, okay, the first
Correct.
part is for this, the second part, so on and so forth. That's very interesting. Well, thanks for taking the time to share it. So a couple of questions, a little chatter going on here that I'm seeing, Anthony, is, excuse me, they are asking about like JMA as far as like who makes JMA keys, right? And you guys make them in your factories all over the world, essentially.
Correct. So JMA started in Spain, in northern Spain, back in 1942. It started as an OEM supplier. So there was a factory not next to our factory in Spain, and it's actually that factory, I want to say, is part of the ASSA ABLOY group nowadays. I think it's for a lot called CESA, CESA. So those guys were in Spain next to our factory, well, next to the founder. I honestly don't know what the founder was doing back in then and what got him into the key business, but he started with that one account. That company gave him the key business. So he started making keys for those guys at CESA. Then it evolved to developing keys in the aftermarket in their what they call national market of Spain. They started making keys in the market there. Then pretty soon they found themselves being a leader in Spain, and the demand in Europe was growing. So they kept on supplying other markets over at Europe and North Africa, the Middle East. They kept on going that way. All the way to about, the group kept on growing. I think it was, okay, so the first generation of owners started it, 42. I think by the time the second generation came through, they were already a leader in the country, in Spain. Then they hired a CEO to run the company. When the second generation become involved in the business. What that did to them, it actually grew the business over in Europe. I mean, it literally blew up all over the place in Europe. And they became, at that point, probably one of the top 5 players worldwide in making keys. Then in the back in the mid-90s, you probably remember this, PJ, something happened within the market globally. Ilco and Silca joined forces and the end of the 1990, probably around 99, 2000.
Yep.
and they, I think Ilco bought them or whatever happened under the Dormakaba group. And what did that do? It created a demand from other OEMs. What I mean by that is we're talking, for example, about ASA used to buy their keys from Dominion, from Ilco, from Taylor. They use different key blank manufacturer to get some of their OEM keys. Because everyone is kind of consolidated and everyone bought everything, now they ended up with only two companies making keys for them. There was either JMA over in Europe, in which we were making OEM brands over there, or Silca Ilco here in the US or on the Americas making keys here. So some of the OEMs started asking for JMA to actually start producing keys in this continent, in the Americas. And that's how we started making keys down in Mexico, because one of the OEM called Tesa down in Mexico ordered a bunch of keys from us. They want us to start making them down there. And that's how it evolved. We started making them down there. And basically, it started, I think, in 2000. Then JMA USA opened in 2004. And probably around 2007, 8, that's when you started hearing from me. We were pretty much gradually, we started with the OEM business, and then we gradually worked to the aftermarket.
Okay. Very interesting. It really goes to show how big but small the industry is, right? There's not.
Worldwide is very small.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting, especially when you think about the fact that all of us, like everyone in the world essentially, or has keys in their pocket, right?
Correct.
Very, very interesting. So Anthony, one last question. We have a lot of people in here asking questions, but as you've been talking, they've been actually answering each other's questions, which is kind of cool. But
Sure.
It's very fascinating. I thank you for taking the time to kind of share with us a little bit of the JMA's history, and very interesting. But so let's talk about the Nomad. Okay, the Nomad. It's a I have it sitting right up there, but I'm kind of curious on like kind of what went into JMA wanting to come out with a fairly inexpensive key duplicator.
Well, the problem that I had actually with the key machines in the United States is when I show a machine, the market automatically wants to compare it to something else that they're used to. They're looking for something. But for example, the Berna, there really is nothing to compare it to in size or competitors. However, the Vienna, which is the bigger one, you can't find anything to compare it to. So I started thinking that instead of having something to compare to, maybe it's a good thing to lead and come up with a somewhat of an economical option that's made for the US market, for the specs of the actual automotive locksmith that wants a small, compact machine, but that can do also remote headed keys. It's a 4-way jaws. Fine. It has all the bells and whistles of a nice machine, but at the same time, it's compact. It is manual. It's not semi-automatic like the others. But again, if you want to be out of a jam on duplicating a key for any of your dealers or customers, I think the Nomad does the trick at a very good price.
Yeah.
It really is. We looked into different things. The big one that I had to push was the 4-way jaw. Because the previous economical machine called Echo LCM, that one had only 2-way jaw, and I did not like that. I did not like it. There was a lot in-house fights before they were able to allow me what they gave me on the Nomad. So the 4-way jaw for me, it's absolutely amazing because it allows you on number 4 to cut your Circle Plus, for example, key type of GM key On number 3, you can help you cut your Nissans or Toyotas with the grooves on the outside of the milling.
Yep.
Also, number 1 can help you cut your Quicksets and Schlags and most of the commercials. And number 2 can help you duplicate the smaller M1s. So it is really nice to have that much of a reach in duplication. And also the main thing that I'm also very proud of that they did listen is the space that they gave us in between jaws. You literally, one of the comments that always stuck with me when locksmith talked to me in the shows, and believe me, I listen a lot, is, for example, a Mazda flip key that comes with 2-part, that big old key. You can fit it in that machine. Not a whole lot of machine can do that. So there is, I think, about 4 inches or even more than 4 inches between those 2 jaws that allows you to cut a lot of remote-headed keys without a problem. It also has a high-speed steel cutter, vinyl brush. So we try to give it some kind of a pizzazz on a small compact machine.
Absolutely, yeah. I think you guys definitely did the trick on it. And I've actually cut one of those Mazda flip blade keys on the Nomad before. So it's a pretty cool machine. Now we have a few questions. First of all, we have a lot of people in here thanking you for kind of giving a history about JMA, which is really cool. But we have Jose G is asking, when is the Vienna duplicator going on special?
Soon. I just literally heard from our headquarters on the new pricing about a couple of days ago. And pretty soon you're gonna start seeing it hitting. I'm gonna launch it to you guys. You're gonna see it coming through soon. I'm saying probably in the next 2 weeks.
Awesome, Jose. Stay on the lookout here and go ahead and give us a call too, and we'll definitely hook you up. Another question. Okay, we have Techno Sasquatch is saying CLK needs to sell JMA's GM 5051 universal blanks. Techno Sasquatch, are you meaning just like the GM-50 or like the
what's the reference?
GM 50 /51.
Okay, I'm thinking he's talking about the B. Maybe it's he can correct me. Is it for the B86 or B86 keyway that have a higher shoulder?
No, I'm guessing he's talking about the like B50 and B51 GM6 cut keys. If so, that's actually, I mean, the B50 and B51 keys that we stock are actually the JMA version. So we have those. So yeah, hopefully that'll be it here. Anthony, let me just cruise through here. Looks like we have Dave. Aiden says, Anthony, you are 100% on your Nomad design with the space and 4-way jaws. Thanks for making a totally useful machine.
Well, I listened to locksmiths. That's what we've done. So they said that's what they needed. We got it. So thank them for their feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. Here, let me see here. I've been seriously. Let me say, I'm gonna make sure I don't miss any of these. He says it's the. Okay, yeah. So he says it's the Proline 50 and 51 large small GM 10 cut. Do you know what that is, Anthony?
Well, I think I know what it is. There was another locksmith that actually proposed that. I'm pretty sure a lot of people. I'm in the Proline right now. So GM what? 50?
Yeah, Proline 50 and 51.
Okay.
So yeah, and we could circle back around afterwards, but Techno Sasquatch. Yes, if Anthony,
the difference is the shoulder. So if you look at other competitors, the shoulders, the way they were going down too much, they were affecting how the key sits in the ignition. So on this key, we made it universal, so you don't have to worry about the shoulder. I will have to give credit to Mr. There's a locksmith out of Missouri that actually, Kansas, Missouri. He's the one that came up with the Ingenuity key. You might, Greg Grant. Mr. Greg Grant is the one that gave me that idea. And he's the one that proposed that key.
Okay. Well, yeah. Well, Anthony, we'll have to hook up after this, and I'll have to get those. And Techno Sasquatch, we'll start stocking them. We'll get them set up in the system, bring them on in.
Right
We
on.
can do that. Very cool. Yeah, Sherelle says totally useful machine, no higher praise. That's really cool. Good stuff. So, Anthony, so we got that. Thank you for coming on. I think it's time to give away the Nomad. Let's announce the winners.
All right.
But before I do, I want to talk about a couple things. Then I want to go over the rules because I forgot that last week. I was so excited. You know, I just moved right on into giving away. So first of all, I want to say that we just launched. If you have not listened to the podcast with Anthony and also Eduardo, who wasn't able to make it on here. Eduardo, we miss you, man. We miss you.
He's going to buy us some Topo Chico.
Yes, some Topo Chico. So if you haven't listened to the podcast, highly recommend you do. Anthony and Eduardo go even into more depth on some other issues and some stuff. It's good stuff. However, I also just dropped a new podcast here, I think about a half hour ago, and it's a good one. It's actually me, and I'm talking about when I lost $30,000. It's a terrible story, but I think you'll hopefully find it entertaining and hopefully encouraging. Anthony, how do you feel about that? You know, second year in business, and I essentially got ripped off, lost $30,000. Isn't that a story?
You got to work harder now to make it up.
Exactly, right? Oh my gosh. You know, it was one of those that, as a matter of fact, a lot of the people here on staff didn't even know the story because I really don't like talking about it. It's usually more fun to talk about the wins, not the losses, right?
Correct.
But yeah, it'll be going, guys. Hey, check it out. We'll kind of be going over it next week. We'll kind of hit on it. So hopefully you enjoy it. It's pretty interesting. And next week on live, we'll actually have the Lock Father. So I know he's in the comments, chats right now. But now, Anthony, I don't know if you know, but somehow my dad got the nickname the Lock Father. What do you think about that?
I think it's an awesome nickname. I like your dad a lot. I really do.
Yes, yeah. He's fun. He's fun to have on here, and we'll have him on here next week for y'all. So
sounds good.
Let's go ahead. I'm going to go over the rules here for the Lock Boss giveaway, and then we're going to call out the 5 winners, and then Anthony is going to draw live the winner of the Nomad. So this is how it works. Throughout the week on YouTube, we post videos, and if you comment on the video or videos and include the hashtag LockBoss, you're automatically entered in to win one of 5 prizes that we give away every week. And you can always search hashtag LockBoss on Facebook, on YouTube, Instagram, and you can see all the different winners. Okay, so although someone's winning a Nomad today, the other 5 winners are also getting cool stuff that we like to make it a little more secretive for fun and let you show the winnings. But that's how it works. So that's all you have to do is comment on a video, include the hashtag LockBoss. Every giveaway is unique and individual. So it starts on Monday, goes through Sunday. We announce the winners live here on Tuesday. And that's all you have to do. And we hook you up. It's pretty cool. I mean, Anthony, think about it. We've been doing this for weeks, man. What do you think? It's
pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. So let's go ahead, Anthony. We sent you the names. You have them cut out. Let me give a drum roll. And if you want to announce one winner at a time, let's go for it. You ready?
Sure.
All right, let's do it. So, Lock Boss giveaway this week. Winner number 1 is
Techno Sasquatch.
Techno Sasquatch. Congrats. As a matter of fact, he's on here asking questions. How cool is that? Good stuff. Good stuff. So, Techno Sasquatch, congrats. Let's go here. Winner number 2. Here we go.
Jeremiah S.
Jeremiah S. Congratulations. Very cool. Here we go. Winner number 3.
Looking at it. Coming up. 1 second. Preferred Locksmith.
Preferred Locksmith. Congratulations. Very cool. Here we go. Winner number 4 is.
Okay. Orgasmatron.
Or say that one more time.
Orgasmatron.
There we go.
I'm guessing you know who that is.
Orgasmatron, congratulations. Very cool. Very, very cool. I mean, you know, how many times did you practice that, Anthony?
Okay, the last winner. Thomas Hawthorne.
Winner number 5 is Thomas Hawthorne, you said, right?
Correct, Hawthorne.
Hawthorne. Congratulations, Thomas. Very cool. So those are our 5 winners this week. And now we will, Anthony, if you want to put them all in a hat here, I'm going to change my screen so I can see you. I want to see this live here. Here we go. So here we go. So he has all 5 names in a hat. He's mixing them up.
Okay.
Right, mixing them up really good. And he has a winner. Who is the winner? Anthony, who is the winner of the JMA Nomad? Preferred Locksmith.
That's the winner.
Awesome. Well, congratulations, Preferred Locksmith, on winning the JMA Nomad. The other 4 winners, congrats to you as well. We're going to be hooking you up with all sorts of cool gear and prizes. Anthony, I have to say, you know, thank you so much for coming on. You know, here we are at the end of our Lock Boss Live, and how was it for you?
I really enjoyed the company, and thanks for allowing me to be with you and your customers. I think we work in a pretty awesome industry. So here's some Topo Chico to that. Thank you, guys.
Yes, absolutely. Well, guys, thank you everyone for coming on and asking Anthony some questions. And now, Anthony, in the future, can we expect for you to come back?
Absolutely. Let me know when and where, and I'll be there.
Very cool. Very cool, everybody. Well, hey, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being a part of the fun and the learning and the winning. And Anthony, by the way, in the notes, everyone's saying, you know, thank you to you and to JMA for giving away the Nomad and really supporting all the lock bosses out there.
Well, we couldn't do it without the support of these guys. We really can't. So a lot of the credit goes to them, honestly.
Yeah, very cool.
So thank you, guys.
Awesome. So, well, thank you, Anthony. Thank you, everyone who tuned in this week. And we'll see you next week with the Lock Father. You guys take care. Have a good evening.
Good evening.